Hello, amazing person. Welcome to Dear Catalyst Coach, my companion podcast for my weekly blog posts. I'm your host, Rebecca Cooley. I've been helping leaders in Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies achieve their career and communication goals for over 15 years. My specialty is helping leaders go rogue, helping them to create catalytic and lasting change for themselves, their employees, their organizations, and their families, overcoming hurdles of limiting mindsets, anxiety, lack of confidence, fear, and more. Each week, I offer a reading and unpack this week's blog post, sharing my additional stories from my life, including how I went rogue. Rebecca's Gone Rogue is one of my favorite ways of being described by one of my previous employers. I'm very proud of my legacy. Plus, I go deep on all things introversion, leadership, career shifts, stress reduction, and more. I'll be answering questions like, how do I determine if I should make a career shift? How do I reduce my public speaking anxiety? How do I set boundaries with the people in my life? So tune in each week for new episodes and get inspired to take action, to go rogue in your life, to start an inner revolution, and to be the catalyst in your own life. A little bit more about me. I was named top 16 coaches in Raleigh. I graduated with honors with an MPA concentrating in strategic leadership. I'm a certified master coach and a certified meditation instructor with over 1,500 hours of stress reduction training. So just let me know if you're ready for a partner to join you during this revolutionary time in your life. You can reach me at www.catalystactioncoaching.com. I offer private executive coaching and corporate training for teams globally. I'm excited to connect with you, and I'm wishing you lots of peace, joy, and freedom. Hello, wonderful person. Welcome to this week's episode, Love It or Leave It, tips for deciding to change jobs, change careers, or stay. So each week I receive messages from people just like you asking questions about how to go rogue in their lives, both their personal and professional lives. So today I just want to share one of those responses and that message. So dear Catalyst Coach, how do I decide if I should make a career shift? Signed, About to Leap. Dear About to Leap, thank you for your question. As you know, there's a lot to consider when determining whether to make a career change or leave a job. Finances, family, location all come into play as external factors weighing in on your decision. And while these are obviously important in your decision, it is my best guess that your question relates more to your inner landscape of your heart and mind and what's right for you. So many of us struggle with the feeling that either our current job or current career is not a good fit. Even more so, we all know that feeling of dreading Monday mornings because we have to go back to work. And work is work. Work feels like a jail sentence sometimes. The work we do each day can feel soul-crushing and meaningless. The work environment and work culture feels oppressive. Our boss is a tyrant, and we don't feel connected to our coworkers. Everyone around us is overworked and overwhelmed. It feels like a nightmare or one of Dante's layers of hell. No exaggeration. We've all been there. We all know. Of course, our first instinct in any nightmare is to run. Run from the monster. Run from the threat. Run from the soul-crushing, meaningless work and power-hungry boss. To escape, to wake up, to be safe once again. To settle our nervous system from the constant stress of unrealistic, oppressive, inhuman deadlines within companies who outwardly say they appreciate their employees, but truly on a day-to-day do not really consider the human necessity of work-life balance and manageable and realistic deadlines. So the toll on our minds and body in this constant state of stress is unmistakable as we begin to develop a plethora of illnesses and rack up multiple physical and even mental diagnoses. We may begin to take medications to manage the mental and physical symptoms that the stress of the job has created. So our bodies and our minds are screaming, get me out of here. No one would blame a person for jumping ship the moment it gets so bad that your mind and body are affected by the stress of the job. Our bodies are not created to endure constant stress, and our minds can only take so much. So what do we do in the face of imminent danger where we are in actual reality, we may not survive? So emergency responders use a code to determine best response in the face of emergencies or crises, depending on the threat. Let's go with a basic code, green, yellow, red, and apply it to this work context. So green code in this context means no threat detected. You're safe. Your body and your mind are in a normal state of well-being. No action is needed other than just educate. Educate refers here to continuing to stay connected with your values, what's important to you, stay committed to your own well-being. You're in a place of peace, enjoyment, fulfillment at your job and in your career. You're satisfied, you're content. You feel a general sense of connection with your colleagues. You feel respected and heard by those in leadership, and you have a steady work-life balance. Yellow code means there is a threat detected. You're safe at this time, but you need to be on alert. Your body and mind are in an alerted state. You will need to take necessary actions to return to green. And you are in a place of agitation, frustration, unease. You may be seeing the early signs of stress, including not feeling generally fulfilled. And in your job or career, you may feel a general sense of dissatisfaction, discontented, disconnected, disrespected, not heard, and your work-life balance is being impacted. Now let's go on to red code. In red code, a threat is detected. Your mind and body are experiencing a heightened state of stress, and it is unrelenting. You're not only agitated, frustrated, uneasy, but you also have potentially developed diseases from the stress, including depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, and so many other stress-related illnesses. You are absolutely not fulfilled at your job. You are not satisfied, not content. You don't feel respected or heard, and your home life is suffering. In this instance, you will need to take one of the necessary steps to address the threat. Escape, evade, engage. So you are in a place of bodily and mental danger brought on by constant stress. Escape. For the action of escape is a perfectly reasonable course of action when your mind and body need to recalibrate to a normal state of well-being. Taking a break, taking time off, leaving the job, changing career. The step of evade. The choice to evade is what most of us choose to do. Unfortunately, this happens when we either pretend nothing's wrong, don't address the issue head on, complain to others outside of work, but don't take action at work. While evasion is a momentary solution, it can continue to cause harm to our psyches and bodies, especially if we choose to evade indefinitely. And some of us evade for years and even decades. The last course of action when in red code is to engage. Engaging the issue or the threat head on is often the scariest action because we cannot always predict what will happen next. It is usually in the stage of red code that many people reach out to me. They have been evading for years and are ready to escape. They're ready for a major shift or change. They take a pause long enough to decide what is right for them and to step into a conscious, intentional decision to escape or engage. Even if they have been evading for years through our work together, they gain the confidence and courage to engage. Engaging in this context means identifying exactly what they want in their careers or current position, aligning with their values and what's important to them. They get very clear about what it will take to turn the situation around for themselves and what is needed in the position, in the work relationships, and in the overall corporate culture. These changes are what is needed for them to return to a state of well-being, a place of peace, enjoyment, and yes, passion for their work. So together, my partners and I create talking points and practice difficult conversations in a safe environment. And then ultimately, they have the conversations. They make their asks, they express their desires, expectations, and boundaries. Whether that means engaging with their boss, their coworkers, or overall leadership of the organization, my partners become their own advocates. By advocating for their own needs, my partners can make a conscious choice to stay in the position or to leave. If their expectations are met, they may consider staying, or at least staying for as long as the organization and leadership continue to make the work and work environment a healthy, happy place to be. If my partner's expectations are not met, or if leadership is not actively making steps to correct the situation, my partners typically leave with a plan in place addressing their external concerns of finances and family, and also with a solid career action plan in place. So I work with individuals at all levels of the organization, including the executives and the leaders. For many of the leaders that I partner with, the stress they experience can stem from communication issues with their team members and also with their leadership. There have been countless partners who I've worked with who have begun their programs with me ready to escape, leave their positions because the communication between them and their employees or them and their company's leadership was causing them emotional strain. Through our work together, these leaders were able to see the parts they played in the relational dynamic and were able to make the changes needed to implement leadership communication techniques that I offered. Many leaders in this position have resolved the main stressor in their position, employee relations, and decided to stay. Their work environments became harmonious as the flow of communication improved. My partners returned to their green code once again and also back to their passion for their jobs. Ultimately, the choice to leave or stay in a current position or career boils down to, do you love it? So here are a few tips. Discover what you love in general. Discover what brings you joy and what you're passionate about. Get to know yourself really, really well. Discover what you love in your current job or career. And if you don't love it, get really real with yourself about what you don't love. Identify what isn't working for you and to what level. Is it red? Is it yellow? Is it green? Ask yourself if you are part of what is not working. For instance, are you part of the communication issues? Ask yourself if there is something you can do differently to make things better for yourself. For instance, changing those communication issues, expressing your boundaries, improving relationships. My wish for you today and always is wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make it what you want. Wishing you lots of peace and joy. My friends, it's time to unpack this week's episode. Love it or leave it, and deciding whether or not to change jobs, change careers, or stay. So like I mentioned in the episode, I've been doing this for 15 years, and many people are coming to me for both leadership communication, career coaching, interview preparation. And usually what's stemming from this initial reaching out to me is people are just unhappy. They're not in a place of loving their positions. They're not in a place of loving their work environments or their work cultures. They're having trouble with their relationships at work, um, and they're ready to make changes. So usually when folks come to me, that change and what they're thinking is, I need to leave this job. And many, many times through the career coaching piece, they discover what they want, what's important to them, their values, and we go through this process of identifying what they really enjoy and what's more in line for them in terms of careers. Some folks that have come to me, they discover that instead of more rigid, deadline-oriented positions, they are more of a flowing type of personality, more artistic, more creative, and the reason for the unhappiness and the stress has been they've been so misaligned with being in jobs and being in positions that just do not match who they are as a person and in their personality. And so what they discover through our work together is, yeah, let me do myself a kindness, let me do myself a solid and choose what is right for me. Choose what is right for me. Other folks that I've, have met, it's not so much about changing the position, but about finding what it is within the position that they love. And then learning to advocate for themselves so that those particular positions that they're already in can be more of what's in line with who they are. So in those instances, rather than exploring different career options, what we do is we practice how to communicate with their leadership what they want for themselves. So sometimes through these conversations and our work together, what comes from their conversations with their leadership is new positions are created for them. Many of my partners are highly valued by their companies, and in those particular companies, those folks, the companies, the leadership do not want to lose them as an employee. So surprisingly for my partners, sometimes those conversations are much easier and much less scary than they anticipate. So once they have developed and cultivated the courage to advocate for themselves, speak up and to say what's working and what's not working and having those difficult conversations, they find that maybe perhaps those conversations aren't as difficult as they thought they were. In other instances, through having those conversations, my partners have discovered, yeah, this is absolutely not a company that's in alignment with who I am and what I see for myself. And they make those changes. They begin to take those actions to remove themselves from those situations and those organizations and positions and move more towards organizations and corporate cultures that fit who they are. Absolutely. In other instances, I've had folks that have come to me, usually in leadership positions, that are having relational issues, either with their colleagues, with their leadership, or even with their employees. And through their willingness to be students of themselves, my partners have discovered their parts to play in some of these communication barriers so that they can go in with more skills to improve those communications, those leadership communication opportunities. And they make changes, and those changes are enough to create the happiness and that they're looking for and fulfillment that they're looking for in their current roles. And that's always a very interesting shift for them when they notice, when they're willing to see their part and make those changes and step into their true leadership potential in those moments. Throughout the years, I myself have changed jobs so many times and asked myself the very same question: how do I decide if I make a career shift or make a job change? And I definitely go through the process of asking myself, what's important to me? What do I want? And what's creating this need to leave? Usually I've gone through all of that. I've gone through the phase of needing to escape and just feeling like this is just not for me. It's not working. And I've gone through the place where I've been evading and really scared of having those difficult conversations, either setting boundaries. I remember one context where a supervisor I had was a yeller. She was a bit of a yeller. And every morning she would come in and she would cuss and yell and scream on the phone. And it wasn't just on the phone. She began to do that with the employees in the workplace as well. And so I remember having this conversation with her where I distinctly created some boundaries and, said that that's just not appropriate and that's not going to work for me and it's not going to work for my colleagues as well. And, just being able to face those scary moments when you're needing to advocate for yourself and maybe even advocate for others when other people might be too scared to, and you yourself are scared yourself, but you do it. And you find that process of finding your voice, finding the courage to speak up, finding the courage to advocate for what you need to make it a harmonious, pleasant, non-stressful work environment for yourself is part of your process, whether you stay or go. It's an important part of your process to step into your power and to come into that place of empowerment within yourself in any work context. Um, so many times I've worked with companies and teams and ultimately, discovering that what is really going on that's creating the stress in the work environment is unrealistic deadlines and unrealistic workloads. And, there's always that fear of the consequences of speaking up and saying something to your leadership about this. It's kind of almost a understood, unspoken rule that this is just how it is and just get used to it. And if you don't like it, you can leave. There'll be somebody else. And that's unfortunate because what's happening is, or, what's happened and what's happening and what will continue to happen, unfortunately, is in work environments, companies and businesses are losing really, really good employees, amazing employees who are hardworking and diligent and team players and all of those amazing qualifications and criteria that make them great at their job and great at what they do. But the work environment and the corporate culture is just not conducive to humanity. It's not conducive to treating humans like human beings. Um, you know, having constant state of stress, being in a constant state of stress, having unrealistic deadlines, never meeting deadlines, always having this general feeling that you're not doing enough. While a lot of that can be stemming from the individual themselves not feeling like they're doing enough, it is certainly not the culture of the companies and the businesses is certainly not innocent to that. They definitely perpetuate a culture of not enough. So if the person's already dealing with their own self-esteem issues of I'm not doing enough, not enough, not enough, which I've seen on many teams that I've led and trained, there, you have folks that are just generally feeling that about themselves. When you have a culture of unrealistic deadlines, unrealistic expectations, unrealistic workloads, it is definitely a culture of perpetuating that not enough, which is just adding to the stress of the individual. And we're talking about, this situation in our culture and in our society where people are getting sick. They're getting very, very sick. And I know that everyone listening to this has experienced either this for themselves or have seen it in one of their loved ones. We're getting sick. As individuals, as a society, this is, we're impacted. We're getting these myriad of illnesses and diseases and having to take medications for both physical and mental issues, all relating to stress. And we know it's relating to stress, whether we admit it or not, or our doctors are telling us it's stress related or not. And so we're taking these medications, we're doing all of these things to put band-aids on the symptoms. And the problem is the work culture. The problem is work cultures that are not conducive to having employees advocate for themselves and say what's working and what's not. The problem is our fear of advocating for ourselves and the retaliation or the consequences of speaking up and saying what we need to say in our work environments. And yes, I know that there are these external factors that we need to consider, family and finances, and that is all very legitimate and very real that we need to consider before making changes for ourselves. And ultimately, that is, ultimately not saying that that needs to not be addressed. It absolutely does. I think there's also this other part of us that's very internal, that's very personal, and it's about our own happiness and about what we love. Where do we find contentment, joy, satisfaction? Where are we heard? Where are we respected? And all of that matters. And it doesn't matter if there are employee appreciation days and monthly days where people are being recognized for their good work, if these corporate cultures are not, and companies are not paying attention to whether or not their employees are stressed, overworked, and feeling a constant sense of not enough that's being perpetuated by the company, not necessarily to do with the individual, then we're going to have continuously high turnover. People are going to be leaving, are escaping, running away from these high stress situations. So definitely saying there needs to be a revolution, an absolute revolution. So, what is the first step to revolution? The first step to revolution is what can we do within ourselves to be our own advocates, to speak up, to speak out, to do what we need to do. Yes, there will be consequences. Obviously, there are consequences. And, mitigating those consequences by truly understanding what am I capable of doing at this time, really taking into account all the things and necessary components in your life that need to be addressed as you make these shifts and changes for yourself. Sometimes escape and leaving is not the answer. You know that by doing a thorough investigation and an inquiry into your own psyche and your own self, what really needs to change, and being a radical, honest student of yourself. And if it's you, make those changes. If it's you, if you're part of the communication issues, make those changes. If that will bring you more happiness and joy, do it. Do it for yourself. Do it for a kindness to yourself, but also do it for the employees around you. If you're in a leadership position, what an amazing thing to do as a leader to step into a place of humility and make those changes that need to be made. Wow. I mean, you are not only impacting your life, you're impacting the life of many, many other people and their families. What an amazing thing that would be to do. And if you need to leave, leave, but leave with intention. Leave with conscious intention and choice to do what is right for you. So I wish you the best. I wish you the best as you move through this next phase of your life, deciding whether or not you're going to engage or leave, and just ultimately wherever you are, whatever you're doing, do it for you. Make it what you want. That's within your power. Talk soon.